I'm Dr. Linda Acredolo.
And I'm Dr. Susan Goodwin. Welcome and thank you for coming out for the Baby Signs Workshop today. We know you're going to learn things about baby signs today that are going to change your parenting experience forever. The reason we know is because Linda and I have experienced exactly those benefits that baby signs can bring with our own children and our own grandchildren. You may be wondering, what are baby signs? Baby signs are just simple gestures that babies can use to talk about things that they don't yet have the words for. Think about it. All parents teach their babies to wave bye-bye before they can say the words. We're just saying that's the tip of the iceberg. There are many other things that babies would like to communicate about, what they're interested in, what they're feeling, what they need. And we're just saying that baby signs allow babies a way to talk about those things. Take the example of mealtime, which can be a very frustrating time for both babies and for parents, with three simple signs: the sign eat, drink, and more. Babies can communicate in a way that makes the whole mealtime experience a much more pleasant one for the entire family.
We know that when babies can't say words, they're very frustrated. In fact, we know that from personal experience with my daughter, Kate. 20 years ago, when she was just a year old, she was so frustrated that she didn't have words that she started inventing baby signs. The first one, we were out in the garden, she was looking at a rose bush, she wanted to talk about it, so she turned to me and she sniffed. That was enough to let me know she was interested in the flower. I told Susan about that, and together we started to watch Kate very carefully. We noticed that she was using that flower gesture to talk about flowers wherever she saw them. And not only that, she was also inventing more baby signs. For example, she would put her little fingers together like that to talk about spiders. And she would rock her torso back and forth like that when she saw swings in the playground. And she even would flap her arms when she saw birds. We noticed that what this made Kate feel was very proud and feeling like she was really part of conversations. And we also noticed that it made us feel more connected to her. So we knew this seemed to be a wonderful way for adults and babies to be closer together, but we didn't want to recommend that other people do this until we were absolutely sure that there was no way this was going to have any negative effect on development. You may have heard parents and grandparents express the concern that if you encourage a baby to use nonverbal communication, why would they bother learning to talk? Well, we asked the National Institutes of Health to help us find out if that was the case or not. They gave us the funding to compare two groups of babies, a group of babies who were encouraged to use baby signs and a group from the same communities who were not encouraged to use baby signs. We followed both groups for 2 years, monitoring their verbal development. And just as we suspected, we found that the baby signers actually learned how to talk sooner. When you think about why that might be the case, a good thing to keep in mind is crawling. Just because a baby learns to crawl in no way decreases that baby's interest in learning to walk. In fact, the ability to move around the world at crawling really opens up the world for the baby in a way that it makes the baby absolutely more excited about getting up on their 2 legs and walking around the world. We find the same thing happens with baby signs, that because they can communicate with baby signs, they get a sense of how wonderful it is to communicate. It teaches them about language, and then they're suddenly up on their legs looking for ways to communicate with words, challenges them and excites them about learning to talk.
It was this exciting discovery that gave us the assurance that we needed to feel comfortable in sharing the baby signs message with parents throughout the world. After all, as parents ourselves, we know how important it is that parents can trust that what they're doing with their child is really something that's good for their child. And we also found that the language benefits are just the beginning. Much more importantly, we found that the social-emotional benefits that baby signs bring to families is very rewarding for babies and for their parents. For example, we found that baby signs helps to alleviate the frustration that both babies and their parents feel. We also found that with baby signs literally at their fingertips, babies feel empowered in a way to have an effect on the world around them, to be able to make things happen. And when they feel this sense of control around in their worlds, they feel much more self-confident and build self-esteem in ways that build a good future for themselves. We also know that when babies can communicate with the people around them, it just draws people to them in a really positive way. That's why we say that baby signs can enrich the parent-child relationship and provide benefits for families in ways that will last a lifetime.
Meet Brandon. He's showing us his baby sign gesture for more, index finger to palm. He's telling his dad he'd like to have his picture taken again. Emily is also using a sign for more, in this case requesting more crackers. Keegan shows us his baby sign for hot, a blowing gesture. He uses this gesture to tell his mom his food is hot, his bath water is hot, or the sidewalk underneath his feet is hot. Turner tells his caregiver Kathleen that he sees something big. He also uses this sign for Big Bird. Emily is telling us that she sees a bug. Tristan is telling his mom that he sees a pig. His baby sign for pig is index finger tapping his nose. Brandon is showing us his baby sign for bird, flapping his two hands up and down, depicting the wings of a bird. Emma is showing her mom her baby sign for butterfly. Notice how Emma can take a very active role in picture book reading with her mom. Nisa and her dad practice the baby sign for frog, tongue in and out. This shows how fathers can participate in baby signing as well. This little boy shows us his baby sign for cat, fingers wiping across his cheek, depicting the whiskers of a cat. Other families have used a gentle stroking of the back of the hand or a clawing motion. Learned in the context of the Incy Wincy Spider song, Turner uses wiggling fingers in a downward motion to represent the rain. He's telling his caregiver it's raining outside. Here, Leanne is bouncing her torso up and down to tell us she's just seen a kangaroo during an outing at the zoo. This little boy is showing us his own baby sign creation. As a firstborn, he's often had his picture taken. This is his baby sign to represent camera. Turner is telling us that he hears a noise, fingertips to ear. Some of the best baby sign teachers are older brothers and sisters. Here, Brandon models the baby sign for book for his sister Leanne, who enthusiastically responds.
It's when parents and teachers actually see baby signs in action that they begin to truly understand their value. How providing babies a way to let others know what's on their minds makes life both easier and more fun. Whether children use baby signs to get their needs met, like asking for more cereal when theirs is all gone, or to tell us what fascinates them, like a rainfall of bubbles. Children who use baby signs learn a valuable lesson. Those big grown-up people around them are truly interested in what they have to say. Baby signs in books, what a wonderful partnership. With baby signs, children can take an active role at much younger ages, making book reading more fun for everyone, and paving the way toward that critical milestone, learning to read. A baby's world is full of wonders. There are animals to talk about, things to ask for, objects to describe, games to play with grown-up playmates. Where did it go? Where did it go? It's all gone. And warm, cuddly moments to share over a good book. Baby signs make all these possible well before a baby can talk. More than that, baby signs help babies feel good about themselves. They learn that even though they are little, they certainly aren't helpless. They learn to interact with others with confidence and to trust that others will value what they have to say. They learn that communication is a basic ingredient in forging bonds of love and respect. And finally, they learn that communicating with baby signs is much more effective than crying and more fun too.
You know, there are so many good baby sign stories to pick from, but this one is my favorite. One night when my daughter Sophia was about 15 months old, she woke up crying. And it wasn't unusual for her to be thirsty in the night, so I thought she probably just needed a drink. But this time, as soon as she saw me at the door, she stopped crying and started to do her baby sign for hot, blowing as hard as she could. The room was actually pretty cold, so I wasn't really expecting that. But because of the baby sign, I asked her if she was hot, and when she nodded yes, I felt her forehead. She had a fever. She was telling me that she had a fever and that she was sick. I was amazed. Without the baby sign, I would have just given her a drink of water as usual and expected her to settle down. But because she could tell me what was wrong, I knew exactly what she needed. So I gave her medicine and rocked her in my lap until she got sleepy. I can't tell you how good it felt to know that I had been able to help her feel better and that I hadn't let her down when she really needed me. Baby signs are wonderful.
I think it was when my daughter Kara was about 17 months old. This happened one day at daycare. In the mornings when I get ready to leave, her teacher comes over and takes her by the hand. They go over to the fish tank and they feed the fish together. It's kind of a nice little ritual that they have that, makes Kara feel better about me leaving in the mornings. One day, another little toddler, Levi, he clearly was having a hard time with his mom leaving. He was crying a lot and clinging to her and obviously didn't want her to go. And Kara looked at me, pointed at Levi, and she did her baby sign for sad. Like she knew that he was sad because his mom was getting ready to leave. So anyway, Kara went over to Levi and looked at him, and then she did her baby sign for fish. Like she was going to take Levi over to the fish tank and, feed the fish because she knew that that made her feel better when her mom left, so maybe that would make him feel better when his mom left. It was just amazing to me that that happened, and by the way, it worked.
My son Bryce was about 13 months old when this happened, and it's still one of my favorite memories. One morning, I guess it was about 5 a.m., Bryce woke up crying. Usually my wife would get up with him, but she wasn't feeling well, so I agreed to go. Since I knew I probably wouldn't be able to get back to sleep, and because Brycey seemed to be wide awake too, I just scooped him up, grabbed a bottle, and took him out to the porch. We settled down on a glider and began rocking back and forth. He was still whimpering a little, but then all of a sudden he stopped. The sun was just peeking up from the horizon, something I don't think he'd ever seen before. I wouldn't have even known that he'd noticed it, except right then he looked up at me, smiled, and opened and closed his fists. His baby sign for light. It was so neat that he could tell me what he saw. Being able to share something like that with a baby that little was just amazing to me. I think it was at that point that I became as excited about baby signs as my wife.
This is our favorite baby sign story. It's kind of hard to believe, but it did happen.
When we were driving home from Barstow, Katie was about 16 months old and Emma was older. We were stopped for the kids to have a potty break outside of Barstow, and they were running around, so I got out a ball for them to play with. And after a little while, another family drove up, and their little boy got out of the car. He was standing there watching them for a while. Then he walked a little bit closer, and he made the sign for ball. And I wasn't really sure that's what it was, but apparently Katie knew because she threw him the ball right away. And after she threw him the ball, he signed, "Thank you." And Katie responded by signing, "I love you." His mom and I couldn't believe it. It was just so sweet that they could communicate using baby signs, and they couldn't even talk yet. It was great. We still love to talk about it.
The kissiest of cheeks, the cuddliest of cuteness, all wrapped up in one sweet-smelling, babbling baby. And oh, how a baby can babble. Being a baby means being cute. But just what does all the babbling mean? And for goodness sakes, what does the baby think we're saying when we adults talk? Well, these are age-old questions, but there are some brand new answers.
Teddy wears his helmet. Yeah. When he rides his bicycle to school.
Meet 18-month-old Tristan and his mom, Rachel. Tristan has been communicating with his mom since he was 10 months old. You heard right, 10 months old, because Tristan and his parents use sign language.
Tigers were sleeping. Were they sleeping?
Tristan is not deaf, neither are his parents. Instead, they use signs mixed with spoken words, and this is a means of enhancing the parent-child communication process.
So some elephants? Yeah. We started doing it when he was about 7 months old, and we would do the gestures when we were reading books. We'd do this for cat and more when he was having his supper, and fish was like that. Are they hungry? Should we give them some food?
By using both a gesture and a spoken word, the baby learns 2 ways to communicate the same idea. For young children, it can be easier to use a gesture for complicated words like airplane. And then once pronunciation is mastered, the signs drop out of the child's repertoire.
No, I'm not going to put my fingers in either. We use scissors to cut your hair, don't we?
It's been a big window into Tristan's world. And now, after more than a year of using gestures, Tristan can put several signs together to form sentences. And get this, he even talks to himself.
Sometimes if he was playing off by himself, maybe reading a book, you could see what he was reading because he would be doing the gestures to himself and giggling to himself about what he was seeing.
Frustration and whining are often a hallmark of the toddler years, but this program can ease those behaviors. Here, thoughts and ideas are shared, and that communication becomes the cornerstone of a loving relationship.
I was amazed at how early on babies are aware of what's going on and how early they understand what you're saying to them.
The gesturing helps parents and babies share their lives and observations. It's a kind of sharing that opens worlds and erases worries. A kind of sharing that emphasizes one very important thing: love.
The window into the baby's mind means that the parent respects that baby much more than they might have otherwise. When they can see what that child is capable of doing, it certainly makes them relate to that child in a different way earlier on. And I think that kind of bond between parent and child is by far the most important part of any baby's life. So if we can facilitate the parent-infant relationship, we can have much happier, healthier babies.